Hi everyone, this is Stephanie Miller, and I am going to summarize chapters 3, 4, and 5 of our textbook, Reinventing Project-Based Learning, Your Field Guide to Real-World Projects in the Digital Age. First of all, before I move on, I just kind of want to explain what project-based learning is. It's a teaching method in which students gain knowledge and skills by working for an extended period of time to investigate and respond to an authentic, engaging, and complex question, problem, or challenge. With the internet right at our fingertips, many classrooms are going to this project-based learning model. So chapter 3 is titled Imagining the Possibilities. This chapter focuses on how to get the project started, really. Thinking outside the box. They use the analogy of if you were planning for a trip, you would pack the type of clothes of the place you're going to visit. You would expect it, would it be cold? Would it be hot? You would think about the food you're going to be eating there. All these things go into your trip. And when you're planning a project, it's kind of the same thing. Plan what you're going to present, what you're going to work on, and how you want to do that. So it's important to focus on establishing the framework of the project is really what it's about. What do you want your audience to know? That's an important thing that you have to think about when you are planning your project. What is it that you want to get across to them? And think outside the box. Again, with technology at our fingertips, there's so many different ways that we can present a project. One of the things that they talk about is creating a wiki. And we've used wikis a lot in this course, but it allows, all students to get involved on one screen. Great projects come from using real-world contexts. Students, especially older students, secondary age students, know what's going on in the world. And when you give them a project based on something that's actually happening, a real-world context project, the nature of the project will be much more engaging and much more fruitful. They'll be much more engaged in the production of the project itself. And it's important to understand that these projects aren't simply for the subjects that you want your students to understand. It also goes beyond that and how it will help them develop important skills, attitudes, and habits throughout working on this project together. And many of the skills that students learn with project-based learning is how to analyze, evaluate, and create. And during that phase, they will be preparing a project, creating a piece that they're going to present, and all of this is being done together. Collaboration is key, and it is a skill that they will take on with them throughout their career. Chapter 4 is titled Strategies and Discoveries. This chapter focuses more on the selection and designing of the actual project. So now we've got the project. We know what we want to work on. Now how do we narrow it a little bit, and how do we want to design it? How do we want to present it? Throughout this part of project-based learning, it's important to pay attention to the students' experiences and how they're doing with the project. Are the important learning goals that you had for them being addressed? Does the project plan include sample of student work, which you and other students can critique and evaluate? Are they mastering content? Will they engage in an activity that, helps them and helps other students? So it's important to pay attention to all of these. And many times when creating a project as a group, there's pitfalls that you can fall into, and some of those pitfalls are too long of activities and too little learning. Sometimes students get wrapped up in the activities and not so much on the content of what the project should actually be about. Too much technology, which I know this day sounds strange, but too much technology can also become cumbersome and a little bit of a burden on a project. So it's important to balance technology and traditional practice of learning. Another one is overly scripted, too many steps. You don't want a project that you are just basically reading from a script. Put yourself into it, make it so that the audience feels that you are very much engaged in this project. And some of the traits of great projects are that they're loosely designed with the possibility for different learning paths, construct meaning, capture students' interest. Absolutely, it has to do that. They're realistic. They're not made up. They're not far-fetched. They're realistic. And everybody's involved. They tap into rich data. They're structured so the students learn from each other. They have students working and inquiring on multiple steps and asking questions and engaging. It does have some technology, which is important. And it has an aspect where the students or the audience is learning by doing. So some type of activity or project. And chapter 5 is titled Making Assessment Meaningful. So even though project-based learning is a group activity or group project, it's a personalized learning experience as well. These students individually are learning how to question, how to investigate, make sense of what they're discovering. They're asking more questions. They're doing more research. And at the end, you're hoping that they're coming out of this with new understanding of what the topic was about. However, throughout the process of PBL, project-based learning, it is important that there's assessment throughout the entire process of creating this finalized project. It's important that there's a common understanding between the student and the teacher and the groups of what's expected of them, what the final project is expected of them, and the work, what's expected of them needs to be understood by everybody. So in this chapter, they discuss the assessment for learning and assessments of learning. So assessments for learning are your formative assessments. Tap into students' thinking so you can, understand where they're coming from on these projects. Talk to them throughout the process of creating this project. These formative assessments will give you an idea of if they're really grasping the content and what they should be working on. Engaged teachers are aware of what's happening throughout this project development. So that is the assessment for learning. And the assessment of learning are your summative assessments. Now, did they learn what they needed to know? A great summative assessment for a PBL is to grade against a rubric. You hand these groups their rubric at the beginning of the project so that they know what they will be graded against, and at the end you grade based on if they had all those points met within their project. You can give a test. That could be a summative assessment as well. But definitely some kind of summative assessment where you're really making sure that they learn the content that was supposed to be learned is important. And if teachers and students alike are engaged and communicating and discussing throughout this entire process to create this project, then you're making these assessments meaningful. These students are aware that there is a reason to it. They are learning what you want them to learn, but they're doing it in a collaborative, fun, social way. And students enjoy that. That is my summary of chapters 3, 4, and 5. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.